Hi, my name is Keel, and welcome to World Building Wednesday, where we spend time building a whole new world together and learning about using ScriptoriumGM as a companion tool for your creativity. In the last episode, we set up our folder structure and added our first source book, How Do You Do That, from the Mage of the Ascension. We've got all our folders ready, so we created an inbox, a bestiary, the cosmology folder, factions, items, locations, NPCs, quests, and story information. But right now they're sitting there almost completely empty. We have one idea so far. Magic is dying. That's a start, but what do we do next? Today I'd like to start turning that single spark into something more developed. So we're going to use ScriptoriumGM's AI assistant to help us brainstorm the inciting incident for this campaign. And because I want to get this in as soon as possible, we'll also start sketching out the geography of our world. You may want to start somewhere else. Go with whatever excites you. A single NPC, a specific scene, an idea for the entire campaign, for a single campaign potentially. It's absolutely your choice. These are just where I like to start. If you've ever sat down to prep a campaign or an entire world and started with a blank page, this episode hopefully is for you. So let's get into it. Let's start with ScriptoriumGM's AI assistant and just have a chat. So here we can see the AI chat on the right-hand side. I'm going to pull this across so that it covers most of the screen and I can really have a conversation with it, kind of close off some of these other areas and really open this up because this is where I want to focus today. I want to be chatting. I don't want to be creating new notes yet. I just want to kind of brainstorm some ideas. Because I'm a patron supporter, you will see on the bottom here that I have 3 levels that I can use of different AI models. If you're on the free subscription, you will have access to the fast version, which is great in itself. I've used it plenty of times. With these other models, though, I can allow a bit more creative freedom for the AI, which I've found with the balanced and the powerful model. For brainstorming, I tend to go with the balanced model. It uses less of my tokens, my usage cost, and because I'm not creating anything particularly intense with it today, we're just having a conversation, I find that balanced works really well for me. I tend to use fast for when I have a quick question about something that maybe a player asks during a game, or if I just need a quick context clue, like who is this person, I'll use the fast response because it gives me something quick and easy and doesn't go into a huge amount of detail. And I'll use the powerful version for a much more intense session of something that I really want to get right, something that I really want to create with and have some ideas formed and generated that I might not know. Also, when I want to context check something for myself, if there's an area that I don't necessarily know very well, I'm not a doctor, so perhaps I might use this to give me some ideas about what kinds of things would make me sound at least a little bit intelligent about medical issues. It might not be right, but it will at least give me some context clues, and the powerful model can do a lot of more in-depth questioning and context decision making with the notes that you created. But again, just going to use balanced today. I found that the key to getting anything good out of an AI assistant is to give it as much context and ideas and information as possible. I think if I just typed in give me a campaign idea, I'll get something generic and frankly very obviously AI. So let's give this conversation a bit more of what I want to generate here. So I've gone with a fairly easy start. I need an idea for the inciting incident of the world's premise, what many campaigns in this world may be based off. The core concept is that magic is dying in this world. Could you give me a few ideas for why this is happening? Let's see what it comes back with. Okay, so what you might see is that we've hit an approval request from the system. You will hit these if the system needs to use a tool to do a little bit more in-depth searching. I'm just going to hit approve for this because it's just going to search our information base for why magic is dying. Obviously, we don't have any information on it, so I'll just approve this and let it continue to run. Okay, it has finished thinking through the process. We have an overview. I can see that it's still considering the consensus as something that is in this world, and I want to take that out. So at some point I will create a note that overwrites that, but it is something that is already in my campaign notes simply because I have the Mage 20th Anniversary Edition. How do you do that source book? Because the rule system I want to use is Mage 20th Anniversary. So it's given me a few potential concepts. Let's go through these. So the consensus one, which I probably won't use almost immediately, just shrug that off because I don't want sleepers to have won anything. So let's look at the next four. The source is dying. So this one is actually already quite an interesting idea. It sets us off on a path of a faction of some sort is poisoning the well of power that exists in the world. This could be really fun to deal with. Let's look at the next one. Okay, this next one is also really interesting, a broken bargain. So this gives us the contractual obligation of the awakened mages that may have at this point been forgotten. Perhaps when they arrived on this world, they made a pact to be here. And because the elders have all passed away and haven't passed down the obligations, or if they have, other factions have kind of overwhelmed those or overridden those, this could be a really fun one to play with as well. Again, it gives us a lot of ideas that we can use to go through and make a whole lot of campaigns off of. Let's look at the next one. Okay, this one seems quite similar to the second one. The source is dying. Someone's poisoning it. This is just someone is harvesting it rather than poisoning it. So I would think that these two kind of go together, but perhaps they can both be in there. Perhaps we use them as a single idea. One faction is poisoning it, another is siphoning what's left over, and other mages are struggling to keep up. That also gives us two antagonistic factions at any one point that we can rely on. And then the last one, the Long Winter, the others I had kind of had ideas about before. This one is completely new to me. It's something that I had no thoughts on before. Instead of magic just dying, it is just cyclic. And this is just a cycle that people don't understand, that people don't know. So you're constantly chasing something that is actually just a natural ebb and flow of magic, and it makes things harder to do for certain periods. It's kind of an interesting premise. I like the idea. I don't know if it's what I would use. I more prefer that something is actively changing magic, but it is an interesting one. So we've got some options here. This is why I like to say that AI is a great brainstorming partner, but not necessarily what we should use to make decisions. I can now tweak or change the... I probably won't just pick one and move on. As I said, I really like the idea of the harvesting, and the source is dying. And maybe the broken bargain as well. Why not try and combine the three? Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to type in a new prompt and see if we can maybe combine or refine all three of those ones. Okay. So I've got a follow-up question, and you'll see at the bottom that we've got some questions to consider that the AI chat will always give us, which is a really nice way to refine ideas with the AI. I've just kind of taken what it said before and tried to refine that, and then I'll probably answer a few questions a little bit later. So I said I really like the idea that the pact was made, that a bargain is being broken, but I also like the idea that there's a faction poisoning the well and another, or perhaps even the same faction, harvesting it. My idea here is perhaps that they are both poisoning and harvesting it so that they can sell it later for some sort of profit. I'm going to add that in. Okay, so we have three major areas to work on. How would we combine these, and what would your suggestions what would be your suggestions to add any more interesting aspects to this? Let's see what it comes back with. Okay, so it's given me a really nice kind of starting point that I will drop into a note in a second. The whole concept it's gone with is that yes, there was a pact, some sort of primordial intelligence allowed magic to flow with a caveat. It needs to be able to flow freely. The faction that essentially set out to keep it safe, I'm paraphrasing a bit, but the faction that set out to keep it safe, they found the pact, they decided they wanted to keep it safe, but then over time have kind of come to the idea that if they stored it, if they bottled it, they would essentially have one of the most valuable, the most valuable commodity in the world, at least for a little while. And perhaps they're trying to work out how they can keep the flow somehow, but also harvest it at the same time and not have the worst happen. So it's a storehouse. And it does have some ideas for the storehouse that I like and will kind of think on. So this is already a great premise and a great idea. I'm going to take a little bit of this, think through what I want as an initial idea. This will change over time, but we can put this down and then work on it as we start to expand the world and get more ideas in. So this has given us a really good overview. Let's make a quick note. So I'm going to close this up, open up my notes section, and then let's put this into the story folder and into world building. So we've got the world ideas in here already. I'm going to create a new note. Why magic is dying. And then I will take some of the ideas and core concepts from here and put it into my own words. Okay. So I now have a note that I've created. Essentially, it just lays out the core concepts of why magic is dying. I might change this note in the future. It gives us two major factions, one that is poisoning the well of magic, the other that is hoarding it. Both of them had good reasons for starting what they did, but it's become now a major problem for the world. And we also have the primordial force that gave a cosmic bargain. And that is now my concept sorted. So I'm going to teach this note to the system, to the assistant. That will allow it to sit as a major note of this area. And also, once this has been taught, okay, I'm going to rename this conversation. Why magic is dying, so that I can always come back to it and ask more questions at a later stage if I need to. I'm now going to make a new conversation, which I can do over here, or I can click on this little link here and go to begin new chapter. So we'll do that. And I'm now going to rename this conversation geography. The note is now been taught. It has the context of why magic is dying. So I'm going to ask it a quick question to start off my geography world building. Okay, so come up with a quick overview. What I'm going to use in this case is a powerful model. I wanted to make some decisions and think through a few things that are a little bit more intense. I'm going to use the most powerful model. I'm also going to click on this little icon, and we have some arcane permissions. For this session, for this particular conversation, I want the system to just approve all of the notes and all of the extra tools that we might want to use. So I'm going to seal the session route. I don't want the grand seal. This would be for all of our conversations, and on occasion I do want it to ask me whether I want to approve what it's trying to do or not, especially when it comes to like creating new notes and things like that. But for this session, I actually just wanted to accept all of for this conversation, I wanted to accept all of the notes, all of the approvals. So I'm going to say don't create any new notes yet, which the system can do if you would like it to, but I don't want it to do that, and I've already given it permission to do anything that it wants, so I'm going to be very explicit. Don't create any new notes yet, just some ideas. Okay. It's finished its thinking and its overview, and I think it's done an excellent job of giving me some really good information. It's given me a naming convention, with a linguistic framework that it'll use to build. It's given me 5 regions with specific geography, roles of the story, relationship to magic, for example, what it is. So I am going to create these notes in the locations folder. What I'll probably do is use them almost as is and then tweak them a little bit afterwards, but what I really want to do is actually just create the naming folders, and then we will finish up for today and I'll create the rest of these notes. So in the locations folder, we've got continent 1, which I'm going to rename to, well, just do the one on the screen now. Hello, Velmir. And I will now, if I create a new folder here, now I'll create the first of the 5 regions, Kel'Thir. The next one is, just copy this in. Okay, great. So it's given me a bunch of ideas. I've now created the top level continents for all intents and purposes that will have sub-countries within them if I would like them to, or just towns and cities, locations. In my opinion, every location or NPC or object we create should be able to facilitate stories told with that aspect, that asset we've created. So that's what we're going for here. Each region is a large source of potential adventures, needs, conflicts, where players' choices can matter, but things are always going to be moving. And that is going to cover it for today. So to quickly overview what we did, we started with our main idea, magic is dying. We only had that to start with. Then we used the AI as a brainstorming partner to expand that into an inciting incident. We used that and that expanded concept to then generate our geography that's thematically connected to that core premise. At every step, I hope you can see that we were the ones making the creative decisions. The AI was just supporting us and augmenting our ideas. Or in some cases helped overcome a barrier we hadn't thought of. The world is still fundamentally ours, though. Here's the workflow I tend to use. I'll start broad, talk to the AI, narrow down what I like, and then save the ideas that I prefer or would like to use as a note. And then, if I want to, I'll use that note as context for the next conversation. Each brainstorming session essentially builds on the last one, and the world, because you're putting them into notes that the AI can reference, gets richer every time. The other thing I want to specifically highlight is that obviously none of what I wrote today is permanent. This is going to be a living set of documents. The more we build in the future episodes, the more we'll probably come back to these older notes and revise them. Maybe one of these regions doesn't work once we've developed the overall structure. Maybe the inciting incident shifts a little bit once we've kind of fleshed out some of the NPCs and some of those factions we've talked about. That's kind of how I find that world building works for me. But the important thing is that today we made a great start. Next week, we're going to take one of the locations we created today and go a bit deeper. We're going to build out a specific location that I'm interested in, and I'm going to show you one of ScriptoriumGM's most useful features, which is adding a note context directly to your AI chat. This lets you point the AI at a specific piece of world information and say, focus on this. The results are usually quite particular to that note then and are going to always be significantly better than generic prompting. If you're following along and you're building your own world, I would love to hear what kind of inciting incident you came up with, either for your campaign or for your entire world or for your idea. Feel free to drop it in the comments, or please feel free to come and chat with us on Discord. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next Wednesday.